it can be helpful to understand your personality type so that you can know where to direct your attention and focus in on your strengths. So the purpose of this video is to first of all give you some indication of narrowing down what your personality type is. Now this is based on the DISC personality types. If you want a more detailed assessment, then go to the Myers-Briggs test online, 16personalities.com. But the DISC personality type test I will be giving you today is a bit more simplified, and it will give you hopefully a bit of direction on where to direct your attention and how to maximize those strengths and how to deal with your weaknesses. So 2 questions to start off with. First of all, are you more outgoing or are you more reserved? Now, one will be more dominant than the other. A lot of us are both, but one is usually more dominant than the other. So do you prefer to be the life of the party and hang out around people most of the time, or do you prefer one-on-one conversations and a quieter environment for the majority of the time? So more outgoing or more reserved? Second question is, are you more people-orientated or are you more task-orientated? More people or more task-orientated? Now, it's about what you think about first, what comes to mind first, instinctively, because most of us will have both of those, but it's about the dominant side that I'm interested in. So the DISC personality types, D-I-S-C. The D type is outgoing and task-orientated. The I type is outgoing and people-orientated. The S type is reserved and people-orientated. And the C type is reserved and task-orientated. So the D type tends to be more dominant. They're outgoing and task-orientated. They're more dominant, they're more direct, they're doers, they take action. And they're very outgoing, obviously. The I type is very influential, so they're outgoing and people-orientated. So they're very influential, inspiring, they're very good communicators, and they can be quite interactive as well. The S type, who are the more reserved and people-orientated, are very supportive and steady people. They're quite sensitive. They understand other people. They're very supportive and very sincere. And the C type is very compliant, cautious, calculative, attention to detail. They're the kind of people who will correct you on your spelling mistakes, right? So those are the DISC personality types. Now, where does high sensitivity come into all of this? All of these types have the ability to be highly sensitive. So the high sensitivity trait is an additional trait to take into account. Most highly sensitive people are the S type. So most are reserved and people-orientated, but not all, okay? And the majority are also very creative. Other types are more structured and task-orientated than people-orientated. So highly sensitive people, because they're very sensitive to their environment, they have the ability, the immense ability to make a big change and big difference in the world if they fulfill their potential and maximize on their strengths. And that's why it's so important to understand yourself better and explore your personality type a little bit further. So I'll be talking about that exploration a little bit more later on in this video. So why is all this important? First of all, like I said, maximizing on your strengths by understanding them. So it's understanding the great skills that you naturally already have and giving value and using them to their maximum potential. It's important to play on our strengths, because if we focus on our weaknesses more than our strengths, we will naturally not fulfill our potential and end up feeling pretty stupid all the time. It's like Einstein said, everyone's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb, then it'll live its whole life believing it's stupid. So if we focus in too much on our weaknesses and too little on our strengths, inevitably we will believe that we're stupid, right? So focusing on your strengths more than your weaknesses is so important in this case. Now, the other thing it can helpfully do is lead us towards our dharma, towards our purpose. Because by better understanding ourselves and how we can serve the world, it leads us closer towards fulfilling our potential and therefore by creating change in the world. So I'll give you an example of that in my own personal life and career. So I have two careers. I am a life and mindset coach, and I'm also an architect. So on the coaching side, it's pretty obvious. I help other people. It gives me a sense of fulfillment because I'm an S-type. I'm reserved and I'm people-orientated. So it gives me a sense of fulfillment to feel like I am interacting with people and helping other people. On the architecture side, I discovered several years back that I work better on private homes. So with on private homes with private individuals or couples or families to help improve their home. So I work well on a personal basis with people, and it makes me feel like I'm making a difference to their life, rather than going in the direction of working on big development projects and working for developers, right? So I prefer working on a more personal basis with people. So that's how I found my purpose, by looking at my strengths, looking at my personality type, which is very people-orientated, very creative as well, thanks to my highly sensitive side. And because I am reserved, I work better on my own rather than in teams. I prefer not to be surrounded by people. I prefer to work alone because it allows me the ability to focus better. Now, on an I-type, on the other hand, so the I-type, if you're the I-type, you're people-orientated and you're outgoing, you might prefer to work in a team or around other people. But then if the I-type, for argument's sake, is a highly sensitive person as well, they will want to work as part of a team and around other people, but later want to retreat to a quiet space at the end of the day to recover. So they will want a bit more balance, but as a priority, they will like to be around other people because they're more outgoing and extroverted. Now, the C or D types, who are both task-orientated, can be good project managers, for example, because they're very structured. Or they can be very creative, especially if they're HSPs, they might be very creative, which means that they're good at creative strategy professions. So understanding your strength can help direct you towards giving you direction towards your purpose and understanding what you might be more passionate about as well. Now, when it comes to our weaknesses, understanding our weaknesses is also important. Now, as an example here, again, to do with my S-type, right? Because I am reserved and people-orientated. So because I am people and not task-orientated, I am not naturally very structured in my abilities. So as a result of that, I work well with people who are more structured in order to create balance. Now, in the same way, I am more reserved than outgoing. So I also work well with people who are outgoing because they make up for my silence sometimes. An ideal team or an ideal business or family or group or whatever it is consists of all these personality types because all contribute in their own positive way. We need all of those types in order to create success. So it's the strengths of each one of those types that is valuable and that can contribute positively to the outcome of whatever it is you're creating. So your strength is just as valuable as the next person's. Now, what can we learn from other personality types to improve ourselves? Now, stretching our personalities and exploring other sides to us is so important too. So not keeping ourselves trapped into a box, understanding our strengths, but at the same time exploring what more is there to all of this? Because there's so much more to us as human beings than just one thing. So exploring how far you can stretch yourself with courage, though, without force, but with courage. Now, what can you do to step out of your box every so often to learn things about yourself that maybe you didn't even know existed? Now, as an example about my personal life that I would like to share, because it might be helpful to all of you, is that, like I said earlier, I'm not very structured, but I acknowledge that it would help me to be a little bit more structured in some areas of my life, right? In some areas of my day-to-day life, in order to create more efficiency. So I enjoy trying to learn from people who are more task-orientated in order to improve myself and grow myself. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm not focusing on my strengths anymore. It just means that I'm building on the weaknesses that I would benefit from building on. Now, the other thing to being an S-type is, because I'm reserved, I'm not naturally very outgoing. By stretching myself, I expose myself to situations that are that involve a little bit more outgoingness out of me, right? And it does take courage and vulnerability, but when I do it, I don't regret it, because I start to explore the sides of who I am and start to actually benefit from it. Because keeping ourselves trapped into a box is not going to serve any of us. And the more we discover more and more about ourselves, the better. The more we grow and the more we can improve in our life. So I encourage you to explore those other parts of you. So if you're more reserved, then what would it be like to be a little bit more outgoing sometimes? Or if you're people orientated, then every so often, what would it be like to focus on structuring your life a little bit better so that it can help you in the long run? Now, the other efficient thing or helpful thing about understanding personality types is it helps you communicate with people effectively. When you start to recognize those other personality types in other people, you can start to build something great together. You recognize their strengths, and you have your own strengths to offer as well. So it's about valuing the role that you have to offer and valuing the role that everyone else has to offer. Because we all need each other in the end. No one is better or worse than the next person. We all have something different to offer. And we all need each other in order to create greatness in the world. So it's the combination of all of those personality types that creates incredible change and positive things in the world. We all need each other in order to get there, so we can learn off of each other to grow as individuals, and we can work together in order to create even better things together as a team. I hope this gives you some food for thought. I'd love to hear your experiences or your thoughts on this video and what you came to reflect on thanks to the points that I've raised. I'd love to hear about that. On a separate note, if you would like any additional support anywhere else, then please drop me a message. I'd be happy to help with anything. I offer free discovery calls, so they're free calls as a starting point to discuss your personal situation and how I might be able to help through my coaching programs. I offer 3 programs at the moment: 3 sessions, 6 sessions, and 12 sessions. But I always encourage an initial call to talk about your personal situation too. Okay, I hope this was helpful to you guys. Let me know your thoughts. Take care. Have a great evening.